Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. So we're going to get back on the train. We got derailed a little bit there. Not going to worry about any minor news and notes right now because I want to get back on this train. It's going to be a little bit of a grind because it's a series, and series are always kind of a grind. And I like to interrupt them once in a while because they can get a little dry. But for those that like a little bit more of the deep dives and looking into stuff, this is a little bit more meat, as opposed to candy. I don't know, dude. So what I'm talking about is, the first thing we did, we ran through and kind of did an overview of the roster, right? Let's look at the actual players. Let's look at their contracts, and let's get a better understanding of what we have, what we don't have, and maybe where we have some blind spots, weak spots, whatever the case may be. The second pass through is to say, okay, now that we have a little bit of a better understanding, unfortunately this was such a long time ago, I have to remember everything, which can be a challenge. But now that we've already gone through those things and have a better idea of maybe what our needs are, why don't we take that information and look to the draft and maybe see, what, I don't know. I want to be careful how I say it because I don't want this to be anything definitive. I don't want to say like, this is what we're targeting and these are the prospects that fit that, so those are the guys to watch. Because I don't know. I don't know exactly how Brian Gutekunst feels about things. We're going to do wide receivers today, which is going to be especially tough because, man, first of all, I don't know how much of a need this is. This is going to be like a lot of other positions, wide receiver a little bit less so, but, depending on how they feel about certain guys and the future of Wicks, which seems like it's, even if the trade stuff is nonsense, it's still reasonable to assume, a year or two down the road, he's not going to be a part of the team. That's not a guarantee, but I'm just saying it's not crazy to think that right now that's the most likely scenario. But anywho, the question, I guess, that I want to look at would be, number one, what does it mean to be a Matt LaFleur wide receiver? Number two, what is it we have and maybe that we're missing? And then take that to the draft and look at kind of the spots where we're picking, look at the available wide receivers, and just kind of pluck some names. Again, it's you could argue it's a fruitless exercise, but if nothing else, we're learning a lot. We're learning about Matt LaFleur and his scheme and his offense. We're learning about our players. We're learning about what the Packers seem to want, not necessarily based on who they draft, although a little bit, but also based on the scheme and what it requires. And then when you put that together with who they've drafted, you can kind of put a picture together of, okay, this is what it means to be a Matt LaFleur wide receiver. Again, I could pull out 5, 6, 7, 8 names and they draft a different guy because they just, Gutekunst is like, I just like this guy and I think he's a good football player and he has a great attitude. We think he'd be great for our culture. So again, this isn't meant to be, the second part being we get to learn about prospects. So we're all kind of just learning and having a good time doing this stuff. I don't want it to be taken too literally as, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying. So that's what we're going to do. By the way, I haven't really said it in a while, so let me do it, and I haven't been there in a while, and I always cringe when I haven't been because I'm worried somebody sent me a message a week ago and I haven't seen it. But patreon.com/pack_daddy is where you can most easily support me. I make it pretty easy to find ways to do so. But if you wanted to support me, that would be the best way to do it. You can support all this stuff for free. You can go sign up, and it's free, and occasionally I'll add some stuff over there. By the way, Jerry, I see Jerry just became a member a day ago, so thank you so much for joining up, Jerry. There are different tiers that you can sign up for. Again, free is fine. If you can only do $1, that's fine. If you have the ability to do more, it's greatly appreciated to be able to support my endeavors here. It might not seem like it when you listen to my content, but I work kind of hard to make sure that it's quality content for you. Again, Jerry, thank you so much for signing up. All right, so let's start with, I don't know if I should start with like the surface level thought that I'm having. Let's not do that. Let's go ahead and kind of get into the granular stuff first. So first of all, we've all had a little bit of time to understand Matt LaFleur's offense, and we all know that it's evolved over time, especially with the new running back and whatnot. But generally speaking, we're running a West Coast offense that is in the Shanahan-style. And that's not just the Kyle Shanahan, that's the big Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, what he started, and it's kind of grown and evolved from there. Outside zone, wide zone, whatever in the world you want to call it. Heavy play action off of runs, a lot of pre-snap motion, shifts, bunch sets, all these kinds of things to get that sort of illusion of complexity so that everything kind of looks the same. And so, it slows down the defense. You can't see it and react because you see it and you think you know, but we've got 5 different things that we can do off of this exact same look. As we talked about with the quarterbacks, there's a lot of rhythm and timing-based passing, quick game elements, screens, RPOs, boots, all that kind of stuff. The concept behind the West Coast, like at its core, is to stretch the field horizontally, vertically too, but horizontal. That was kind of like the revolution. Was to stretch the field horizontally. But the main idea is if you stretch it horizontally and vertically, by, certain plays with the jet sweeps and all that, it threatens the boundaries wide. And then when you got speed with guys like Watson, it stretches the field deep. And when you're limited to 11 players, the more you can spread that out, the more grass you have that's open. Then it's just a matter of stretching the field out and then putting guys in that open patch of grass that you've now created. And that's where the rhythm and timing comes in, because everyone needs to be on the same page of who's going to be open, when they're going to be open. And the fact of the matter is the NFL is a very quick league. And so whatever's open ain't going to be open for long. So Jordan Love has to see it. The wide receiver needs to see it. Jordan has to throw it quickly, on time, accurately to that guy who has to catch it. And then, theoretically, you want guys that are good with yards after the catch. Because we're going to be ripping you up in a lot of short to intermediate stuff. If everybody goes down on first contact, it's obviously a massive, it makes a massive difference in terms of how effective the offense is and can really be. Because everybody's on a similar clock in terms of how quickly the ball needs to be out, the ability to stretch the field comes down strictly to speed. There's really no other element required here. It's how far we can move our players in that, 2.5 seconds or whatever it is. If everybody's slow, you can't stretch the field out at all. Then underneath that, you need guys that can run precise routes. Because in order for you to be in this spot, I might need you to shake him and then go over here to the vacated part of the zone. Another thing to keep in mind is the fact that, Matt LaFleur has talked about that he hates the whole wide receiver one thing. Now, that's, I think, general coach speak, but at the same time, I think it is kind of a feature for Matt LaFleur. I think that for him, it's less about finding that true alpha receiver, not that it's ever a bad thing, but it's really about finding different guys with different skill sets doing different things. It's about having different ingredients that you can, build a freaking recipe with. It's like Taco Bell. We got all the different recipes. We make a bunch of different things. It's all the same ingredients, but we make a bunch of stuff. And so it's not that we are opposed to specialists. Reed, I think, is somewhat limited, and Watson might be somewhat limited. But I think it's a bonus, let's say, if you can do a lot of different things. If we can put you outside, if we can put you inside, if we can move you around. In other words, I'm more interested in your versatility and skill set as opposed to how elite you are in these couple of categories. Like, again, with the Madden thing, like you can turn everything down and turn this up to 99, or we can turn that down and kind of spread everything out so you're kind of, 68s across the board. I went with 68 on purpose because I know you freaks. Of course, one of the big ones is blocking ability. That's one of the things that you can see with pretty much all the receivers that we have is they stand out in that regard. So if we kind of go through, we got Watson, who is a big, strong, physical speed threat on the outside. Jaden Reed, who is a dynamic slot yak gadget guy. Golden, who, again, I will continue to say is an outside threat. I know people disagree. I don't really care. And I don't know what the Packers are going to do. Maybe their intention is to move him inside. I think it's stupid. I think he is a dynamic, dominant X receiver. I think he can do all of those things. He can win off the edge. I think he would be fine and excel out there. Maybe not. I don't know. But very explosive, very fast outside receiver. Again, my position on that. And scheme versatile. Again, I am not opposed to him being in the slot. I'm very opposed to pigeonholing him in the slot. Just like with Savion Williams, where it's like, oh, he's going to be great out of the backfield. Shut up. Okay? You want to do that one time or another, fine. This dude can go outside and he can win. Okay? Or in the slot and win. Stop it with your nonsense. But if we go piece by piece here, Christian Watson, elite speed, elite size, athleticism, like the full package, 6'4", 208, 4'3", 640. Contested catch is something that is really exploded for him. He's always been okay at it. The hands obviously were a problem. Now he's become like a legit receiver. I mean, his hands look phenomenal. The body control is incredible. The route running, I think, was seen as more of a problem than I think it really is. I think he's actually gotten quite good at it. I wouldn't put him in the elite tier of that, but I don't think it's a flag at this point. And so he kind of embodies the big, fast, athletic guy that will be a feature in the deep play action game. Because even though it's not something you're going to do consistently, the fact of the matter is we can threaten it consistently. Romeo Doubs, more of a polished route runner, real good hands. I know he had some problems or whatever, but that was kind of his, let's say, if we're looking at his scouting report more so than, yeah, but what about that year or whatever? Just bear with me. Very tough, very dedicated, good enough speed. That was one of the things that was, I remember when we drafted him, people talked about he had real sneaky speed. They were showing all kinds of clips of him. He obviously got dwarfed as we go on to draft Jaden Reed and Christian Watson and whatnot that just completely flew under the radar. But he was definitely seen as having a guy that had kind of sneaky speed. But a real solid guy that would work in this, timing-based, bunch-heavy kind of an offense. Very reliable chain mover, red zone threat, that kind of a guy. Jaden Reed gives you your slot, yards after the catch, very good in a motion offense, gadget offense, and especially if you're looking at your jet sweep stuff, which I know everybody hates, but it's a function of an offense that wants to spread horizontally as opposed to vertically. Dontavian Wicks, big body, 6'2", 206, contested catch, very solid route technician. The two young guys, Matthew Golden, was the fastest player in the entire class with a 4.29 40, playmaker, great route runner. As we learned, that became my favorite attribute of his when I started to watch him more. But of course, has that vertical ability. Savion Williams, more of like a. I feel like he's like if you took Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and made them like one guy, except he's even bigger than Wicks. It's more like Christian Watson and 6'4", 220. I mean, he is a massive human being. I'm a big fan of Savion, man. Obviously a big yards after the catch guy. He's sort of your kick returner type of guy. Just get the ball in his hands and let him go make a play. So if you kind of boil that down, and again, it's tough because you're always asking the question of, okay, but everybody kind of wants that. How do you kind of parse that out? It's not a perfect science, but size and athleticism, like you've got with Watson, like you have with Golden, not as much the size, but let's say either or. Wicks, Savion, these guys are largely, with the exception of Golden, 6'2", 200. Good blockers, good yak guys. Route running in hands, yak, toughness and blocking. Some other things to keep in mind. High IQ, I think that's kind of a Gutekunst thing. He's very I mean, probably team-wise wide, but I think there's an understanding that this is a complex sport and having a high IQ is beneficial. Christian Watson was certainly revered for that. Toughness, the ability to it's not even necessarily just size. It's a mentality thing when it comes to the physicality and blocking and whatnot. So, anywho, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to maybe take a quick look at maybe where we're a little deficient, and then immediately launch into let's look at a couple prospects. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so just quickly, and it's relatively easy to say, and it's kind of silly because in a way, even though I think we can tweak it to be a bit of an upgrade, what we're missing is Romeo Doubs. What you're missing is sort of the tough over the middle route technician that can catch in traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Right? I mean, Watson beats man kind of with speed, but he's not really a route technician. Golden is a really good route runner, but I don't know that he has the physicality. Wicks, I think, could check the box perfectly and could slot into that role. I just don't know that he's trustworthy. He's been way too inconsistent. He shows flashes and then will just completely disappear for a long time. So if I were to paint a picture, and again, this is not to say anything outside of this doesn't work, but I'm just trying to paint a picture here. I would like a guy that is 6'2 plus, more than 200 pounds, solid blocker, that is your chain mover. Now, my first initial instinct was it'd be cool to go get like a 6'5", 225 guy, just one of those big jump ball guys. But I don't know that that's what we need. I think we have that enough with Watson. Maybe not in the same way, but I think the overlap is there, and what's missing is not covered enough because a lot of those guys are not necessarily very good route guys. Really tall guys struggle a lot of the time with agility. Not always, but a lot of the time they do. And so I feel like the Packers, if you were to pick somebody, again, it's kind of a Dobbsy guy. It's probably not going to be a super sexy wide receiver. It's not going to be the guy everybody's talking about for the Packers who has a 10.0 RAS that's 6'5", runs a 4.32. Like, we have that in Watson. You need a guy that's physical, that can get off the line, that can win against press coverage, that has good enough routes to be able to operate through the middle of the field and get open, who can win in contested situations with solid hands and toughness. He's got to be tough because he's playing in traffic, and he's also got to be tough because his job is to play that dirty role. I guess maybe a better way to put it would be kind of a Alan Lazard that is a ideally better route runner. And I think the benefit here is that because you're not looking for an elite number one, and you're not even necessarily looking for elite traits. I mean, you kind of are, but he's not a guy that checks every elite box. He's not 6'5", 225, 4.32 speed, and a sub 6'8", 3 cone. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think what you're looking for is something that can be found that's a little bit more nuanced in the mid, I'll say mid rounds. Late obviously is possible if you're kind of lucky and find that needle in a haystack. But I mean, similar to, again, Romeo Doubs, 4th round pick. Wicks, I think, was a 5th round pick. I think you can probably find a guy in that range if you wanted to. And we'll look at the full spectrum here and kind of do like we did with quarterback. Is, here's probably your best option, but is it worth it? And then we'll kind of go through that way. Now, there are entirely too many wide receivers to kind of go through everybody like we do with quarterback. So I will be a little bit more selective. But, eyeballing it, there's got to be, I don't know, freaking 40, 50 guys here in the range. So I think we'll probably go round by round here. So if we did go second round, there's a ton of options. And a lot of these guys are big. They fit more of the Mike Williams mold, the 6'4", big go up and get it guys, which, again, I'm not opposed to, and I don't know that the Packers wouldn't be interested in that. It's just that, based on where my head is at on this, that's close, but not perfectly what we're looking for. Now, I'll say this to get it out of the way. the two most popular names that I'm hearing, and again, I'm very excited that I'm starting to hear names and I'm starting to see people say whatever. Number one is Bryce Lance, the brother of Trey Lance, who's over at North Dakota State. He went to the same school as Watson. He looks like Watson. I mean, he's not quite as tall. I don't think he's quite as athletic, but he is a very big, very tall, very fast wide receiver. It's possible that they go in that direction. I mean, he was elite. Started 2 years, cracked 1,000 yards both years. In 2025, he had 21.2 yards per reception, a 90 receiving grade. I mean, he's dominant. Yeah, Bryce Lance has a 9.95 RAS. Let me just look at the details here. Not surprising at all. He is 6'3", 204, ran a 4.34, had a 4.15 short shuttle, and a 41.5-inch vertical and an 11-foot 1-inch broad jump. So, yeah, just a freak across the board. The other guy that I'm seeing Packer fans go gaga over is another high RAS guy, another small school guy, Ted Hurst. Ted Hurst is 6'3", 195, so a little bit undersized as far as the height to weight ratio there. Actually, probably closer to 6'4", whatever. 4.4, 240. I mean, great speed, great explosion, great size according to RAS. Didn't do agility stuff. 2025, 1,000 yards, 14 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns, 82 receiving grade. Getting a lot of hype. That, by the way, is kind of borderline third-round pick, but still. If I'm going second round, though, I'm probably going to go in another direction. And again, I don't think any of us expect this to be the direction the Packers go, but we're just going to go through the rounds here. And again, it's much more subtle. There's nothing flashy. There's nothing special necessarily about it from, you look at PFF, whatever. He's 22. So, okay, he's not old, but he's not young. He's 6'1", 204, very bland, kind of thing, but he checks the boxes, but not quite 6'2", but had a 71 receiving grade, which is fine, but played for a very big school, very smooth, natural route runner, real good footwork, good anticipation, real nice breaks, very versatile. You can put him outside, you can put him inside, good hands, good contested catch, good run blocker, seen as one of the better ones, high football IQ, not a burner. He is a very solid wide receiver 2 or 3, and that's Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver out of Alabama. If you're looking for a Doubs replacement to fill that void in your rotation at wide receiver, and you were to expend a second-round pick on somebody, Jeremy Bernard would probably make the most sense to me. Third round, there are not quite as many options. In fact, second round is where there's the most options, so it definitely slows down at this point. So we can probably go backwards a little bit to Ted Hurst and Bryce Lance. And then again, the next two guys are kind of tweeners between third and fourth round. Again, there's going to be some overlap, so we'll look at some of these guys in the fourth round as well. But in this range, it's a pretty small list for pick 84 in the third round. I've got Ted Hurst, Bryce Lance, Jacoby Lane, and DeJohn Stribling in terms of guys that actually check the boxes. There's some other smaller slot guys in there, but that's kind of your entire list based on the consensus board, obviously. And I think even still, although Bryce Lance is not a terrible option, he provides you that freak athlete kind of deal. I think your best option is going to be DeJohn Stribling, 6'2", 210 out of Ole Miss, big, physical. I mean, as tough as they come at wide receiver, strong hands, real good off a press. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we're driving for here, is a guy that can win against press, win in contested catch situation, win in the frickin' trenches. Again, he's not an elite separator, but this is a different tool, right? We're not asking for the screwdriver, we're asking for the hammer. So I think if I was looking at the third round, and he could be possibly make it to the he, according to the big board, would be there at the fourth round, but still, we'll go with that. Tell you what, let's just call it both. Let's just do both. Let's do third and fourth because there's not enough picks. If we're being super strict, then we could say, okay, fine, Ted Hurst and then Stribling or whatever. But there's just not enough prospects. So if we're talking third, fourth round, I think Stribling is probably the best in that range. I do have a little bit of a bias toward the big physical Ole Miss receivers. If you were listening to me last year, you'd know that that's the case. But oh well, it is what it is. I think he's going to provide you, again, kind of an Alan Lazard type of a player. It's just meant to be a very upgraded version of Alan Lazard. I mean, this is a guy with a 9.56 RAS. He actually did run a really fast 40. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I didn't realize he was that fast. Okay, maybe he can win with speed. Screw it. I stand corrected. 6'2", 207 at the combine, so about 3 pounds lighter than his listed weight at PFF here, which is probably what he was at college or whatever. 4.3, 640. The agility is not great. It's just listed as okay. Explosion is listed as great. All right, then. Double check that box then. All right, why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll do fifth round and later. And we'll see if we can identify a couple other wide receivers that make sense. So looking at that kind of mid to late fifth round now, again, we're kind of getting back into a lot of options. Between the 120 to 160 range, the 160 to 200 range, there's a lot of guys. And again, I feel like this draft is really tilted toward what we're looking for. Again, all the defensive tackles are nose tackles. A lot of these wide receivers are very big wide receivers, or at least not even very big, but just, hefty. Very few of the, smaller variety. And so there's a lot to pick from here. Several good options, including Heidenreich, who we've talked about already. May have talked about him on the draft podcast, actually, but either way, interesting fellow. Kendrick Law, Josh Cameron, Eric McAllister, all pretty solid options. My preference in this range is going to be Josh Cameron. Baylor Bears, 5 years there, 6'1". He's very big, 224. Graded out pretty good the last 2 years as a receiver. Is always graded out pretty solid as a run blocker. He is going to be a very solid, just physical perimeter blocker, reliable hands, tough in traffic. Lazard chain mover. Again, on the bigger side, I think he was 220 at the combine. That's probably going to take away a little bit from what you get as far as route running, but ideally, he makes up for that with the physicality, getting off of guys trying to press him at the line. In the sixth round, pretty straightforward pick, and again, a guy that's really not flashy. He fits. He's got a 6 RAS, which isn't great, but in the later rounds, yes, the Packers would be willing to do that, despite thoughts to the contrary. 6'2", 205, 74 receiving grade. He is going to be older. I don't know his exact age, but spent 4 years at Liberty. I wonder if he was overlap with Malik at all. Yeah, he went to Liberty 2019 to 2021. So in 2020 and 2021, he was a receiver for Malik. That's kind of cool. 4 years at Liberty, 1 year at LSU, and then went to Miami. But savvy fluid technician, high football IQ, excellent stem manipulation, quickness off the line, clean breaks on timing routes, runs with patience and awareness, natural reliable catcher, soft hands, outside ball skills, high point in traffic, competitive and gritty, willing perimeter blocker, plays with physicality, etc., etc. All right, he checks all the boxes. It might be like C+, B- across the board, but he checks all the boxes. And then finally, if we're looking for a seventh round pick, I'll say this, the best runner-up here is probably Dylan Bell, the wide receiver out of Georgia. He, again, checks the under-the-radar box perfectly, 6'1", 210. Receiving grades, honestly, not good. not very productive. I mean, there's just nothing here to really sink your teeth into. But on a does he check enough of the boxes thing, I think yes. However, with that said, my top 7th round target would be Chase Roberts out of BYU. 4 years at BYU. Grades are phenomenal for 4 years. The production has been great the last 2 years when he started. Very consistent outside guy. Let's see. Physical frame, excellent box out technique, functional strength to shield defenders and wall off traffic. Above average combat catch winner. I like that. High points 50-50s, plays tough through contact. Clean route disguise technique with good footwork, settles into zone, provides easy completions. Gritty, competitive chain mover who sustains blocks and works the middle of the field reliably. So for a 7th round pick, I think Chase Roberts is a very interesting guy to look at. Not an elite RAS guy, but he's nearly at an 8. He's at a 7.81. Size obviously is great. He came in at the combine 6'3", 209. The explosion was phenomenal, 37-inch vertical, 10.6 broad jump. The 3-cone was solid at 6.89. Shuttle was not great. The biggest issue is the speed. He ran a 4.64 40-yard dash. Now, again, this is kind of the trade-off, and this is why he's going to be a 7th round pick, despite being kind of as solid as he is in so many areas. But I think specifically what we're looking for, not that you ever don't want speed, but I think you can work with this, especially considering we're kind of conceding he's not going to be number 1, he's not going to be number 2, he's not going to be number 3. He's probably, if you put in the tight ends, he's not going to be number 4. A good chance he's behind Savion, So again, yeah, I think we can work with this. But anywho, that's wide receiver. We're going to continue on through this, again, trying to identify maybe the specifics of what we're looking for and then seeing if we can't find some pieces in the draft. We will leave it at that for today. I will talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.